Good morning, teacher, and hello, everyone. I am Sokhon, and I'm from Group 4, and I'm working on Chapter 8, which is about evaluating inference, deductively validity, and underground. So, in this chapter, we learned about evaluating inference, and there are different standards for evaluating inference, such as deductively valid, which was already explained by my teammate, and the other two that I'm gonna bring up in this clip will be one is proof beyond a reasonable doubt, and the other is shown to be more likely than not on the balance of evidence. So content number one is proof beyond reasonable doubt. Proof beyond a reasonable doubt is a standard for evaluating inference, or it is a standard of proof that apply in the criminal court. So the phrase proof beyond a reasonable doubt means that the evidence and argument presented in the courts must be accepted by any rational person so that we can accuse someone of being guilty. To be precise, it means that the evidence presented to the juries in the court must be reasonable, persuasive, or convincing that make the jury believe that what had been presented are true, and they have no doubt or no uncertainty that it is true. So why it is used in the criminal court? As we already know that the consequences of being found guilty is very serious and severe. It means that you might end up being in jail for your whole life, or sometime in some context, you could be sentenced to death. That's why before any conviction, they must prove beyond a reasonable doubt to make sure that there is no doubt that the inference that you make from the evidence is true. So that's why in the US there is a phrase stated by Benjamin Franklin, which is said, "It is better that 100 guilty persons should escape than one innocent person should suffer." So to make it easy to understand, I would bring one example of reality. It was the trial of O.J. Simpson. So the story is that O.J. Simpson was accused of the murder of his ex-wife, Nicole Brown Simpson, and her friend, Ron Goldman. So after the murder, the investigator found a lot of evidence against Simpson, including his DNA and his blood in his car. So to counter this mountain of evidence, Simpson assembled a legal called Dream Team that set about trying to create doubt about his guilt in the juror mind, and their case seek to cast doubt on the validity of the DNA evidence and the honesty of the police officer who investigate the murder. So one of the highlights of the trial occurred in the courtroom when Simpson tried to pull on a bloody leather glove that had been recovered on his property, and it showed that his hand could not fit into it. And then in the closing argument, the juries declared that if the glove does not fit his hands, it means that he was not guilty. So from this example, we can learn that O.J. Simpson was not found guilty because of the glove, meaning that there is no doubt that he was not the murderer because the glove used by the murderer does not fit his hand. So the next one is shown to be more likely than not on the balance of evidence. Um, More likely then not on the balance of evidence. It is a standard of proof that is used in the civil courts. It means that in the civil court, you must prove on the balance of probability that your case is true. This means that the judge must be satisfied with your evidence that make him think that the evidence is more probable than not, so you succeed the case. To make it easy to understand, I will take an example from the books. So the example was that when Dr. Watson heard that Sherlock Holmes said that it is difficult for someone to use an object daily without leaving evidence about his character and habits on it. So therefore, he hands Sherlock Holmes an old watch which recently belonged to Dr. Watson to see what can Sherlock Holmes tell about the previous owner. So after Sherlock Holmes takes a careful inspection, he makes an inference that the previous owner is a careless person. So he can assume like this because he can see that there are scratches, there are cuts and marks all over the lower part of the watch. Therefore, he can say that the previous owner was a careless person because all the marks and scratches and cuts are from the habits of being careless by putting the watch, coin or keys into the same pocket. So I think this is a very good example of shown to be more likely than not on the balance of the evidence, because from the example of Sherlock Holmes, his reason was not deductively valid. It means that his inference is not conclusive. It can be true or it can be false. But based on the evidence that he had found on the watch, it is more likely or more probable than not that the previous owner is a careless person, because it is the nature of a careless person that they don't take care of their valuable things. That's why they leave cuts and marks all over the watch. I would like to give another example from Romeo and Juliet. It was when Romeo's mother finds something wrong in Romeo because he seemed to be worried. However, as a mother, she clearly knows what troubled her son, so she assumed that her son was in love. From the example, we learned that as a mother, she knows her son very well because she is the one that gave birth to her son. And when she finds that something wrong in her son, like he act differently, he kind of upset and worried, and moreover, he is at the age of love. That's why it is more likely that her son must be worried about his love. So what are the differences between succeeding on balance of probability and failing on the balance of probability? So if the evidence provided to judge and it make him feel that it is more probable than not, then the case succeeds. But if the probability are equal, so the case fails. So if we put it into number, it means that if the judge conclude that it is 50% likely that the claimant case is true, then they fail. But if the judge conclude that it is 51% likely, then they will win. So to make it easier to understand, a Supreme Court judge, he sum up the balance of probability that it would need more clear evidence to satisfy a judge that the creature seen walking in the Regent Park was more likely than not to have been a lioness. then to be certified to the same standard of probability that it was a German Shepherd. For this example, it means that if you gave an evidence to the judge saying that the creature you seen walking in the forest was a lion, then he likely to believe you. But if you provide evidence to show that the creature you saw was a dog, then he probably not believing you, because uh, it is the fact that in the forest it most likely that you see a lion walking rather than a dog. So this is the end of my presentation, and thank you for your attention. Thank you.